Hey everyone, welcome to Sidetrack Adventures. This is Steve. Right now I'm standing on what was once Highway 99, otherwise known as the Ridge Route Alternate. This was once considered one of the most scenic highways in Southern California and had a pretty well-known landmark on it for its time. But this highway has been long since bypassed and abandoned. Well, I'm not sure abandoned is the right word. Let's say repurposed. At least the part of it that's not under a lake. We are currently right off Interstate 5 in northwestern Los Angeles County, just north of the town of Castaic. As we are filming this, Interstate 5 heading north, which ultimately bypassed the road we'll be traveling today, is backed up for miles because of a crash up ahead. The original Ridge Route, created in 1915, was the first paved highway linking the Los Angeles area with California's Central Valley. Officially it was known as the Castaic to Hone route, but it was called the Ridge Route because it traveled along the ridge of the Sierra Pelona Mountains. We're going to start heading down the road to explore the old highway now, and it seems like a lot of people are exiting the freeway to try to get around the traffic, not knowing they'll have to turn around in a few miles, as this does not link back up to the freeway, or anywhere else. When the United States numbered highway system was created in 1926, the Ridge Route became part of Highway 99. The original Ridge Route was narrow and had a lot of curves, and a lot of accidents. 32 people were killed in accidents on it between 1921 and 1928 alone. So in 1928, they decided to bypass a portion of the road and upgrade other parts of it. The newer road is what we're driving on now. In order to increase the flow of traffic and straighten the road, they routed it through Piru Gorge, which also shortened the highway by 9.6 miles. This section of the road was known as 3 Mile Grade. Construction began on this road in 1929, and it opened officially on October 29, 1933, symbolically 4 years to the day after Black Tuesday, the stock market crash of 1929. They called this the Ridge Route Alternate because the Department of Highways expected that some travelers would still choose to drive the original Ridge Route once this road opened and travel at a more leisurely pace. Almost no one did, and traffic virtually disappeared on the original road. And it looks like we've made it as far as we can drive. We're going to have to head the rest of the way on foot. This area where we've parked is called Frenchman's Flat, not to be confused with the site in Nevada where they tested atomic bombs. This is a popular fishing spot as the creek is stocked with trout. Frenchman's Flat is named in honor of a Frenchman named Peter Lebec, whose only claim to fame was that he was killed by a grizzly bear near Fort Tejon in 1837. There's a town named after this guy too, but seriously, the only thing known about him is that he was killed by a grizzly bear. And here's a look back at Frenchman's Flat. And this is Piru Creek down below us. Prior to the 1800s, before this was named for a guy who was killed by a grizzly bear, there was a Native American village on the banks of the Piru Creek. Piru is actually derived from the Chumash word for a reed the natives used for basket making. In spring, sometimes it's actually possible to kayak this creek, and this has been designated a national wild and scenic river. Sometimes so much water actually comes through here that it floods, and they have a siren here to warn people that it's about to flood. So if you hear this siren, get out of this canyon. Looks like there's a pole sticking up over here. Let's go take a closer look. I see something in front of it. Pacific Telephone. So yeah, this has been here for quite some time. And right away, there's no question why this was considered to be one of the most scenic highways in Southern California. This is just absolutely gorgeous. We're heading into Piru Gorge, or Piru Canyon, and up ahead of us, you can occasionally see a car drive by, way up above us. That's Interstate 5, or southbound Interstate 5. And it kind of gives some perspective on how far down into the canyon we are, how far the canyon is below the current roadway. We're a little bit closer now, so here's a better look at the cars up above us on Interstate 5. You see all those cars going by on the road and you just think, 60 years ago, all of those cars would have been on this road. And right over here, there's something interesting, right next to this tree. And I'm not talking about that dumpster. This is one of the original rest areas from the highway. You can see the rock wall here where cars would have been able to pull over. This old rock wall is still mostly in pretty good shape. This was probably built around 1932, 1933. And right over here is where the fountain would have been, where they would have had water for cars' radiators. Here's where the water would have come through. And here's the tub. It's been a long time since there's been any water in here. And it looks like there might have been something right here. This rock is kind of rounded with a hole in it. I'm not sure what would have been there. Here's some of the stonework on the ground. It's kind of amazing to think about how many people would have stopped here over the years to fill up their radiators before heading on to 3 Mile Grade. This probably was a lifesaver. And from the rest stop, we could see the only bridge that we could still visit on the old highway. When this highway was first built, it was built with 3 lanes, one traveling each direction and a center passing lane, commonly known as a suicide lane, since cars could be traveling either direction. But before too long, they decided they needed to expand it to a 4-lane highway. So when this bridge was originally built, it was built as a 3-lane bridge. But you could kind of see the history of the highway as we crossed the bridge, because eventually they had to expand the bridge to make it a 4-lane bridge. So on the east side of the bridge, we still have the original bridge that was built in 1932. And we can see the 1932 stamped into the concrete here. But I think more incredibly, the 1932 section of the bridge still has its wooden railings and rope as well. These would have been originally painted white back in the 1930s, but the paint has long since disappeared from them. But so the 1932 section of the bridge still has its wooden railings, but then when you go to the newer expanded section of the bridge that was built in 1951, well, we have metal railings over here. So here is the newer western section of the bridge. Here's Piru Creek below us. This road used to cross Piru Creek a number of times, but due to reroutings over the years of both the road and the creek, this is the only crossing that's left. There are other bridges on the road further north. However, those ones are currently at the bottom of a lake, so we can't check those out quite as easily. You can still see some of the old highway lines on the cement underneath the paving. I think it's pretty interesting that when they decided to expand the bridge, rather than just redo the whole bridge, they kept the features from 1932 on the eastern side of the bridge and just kind of made a completely different bridge on the western side with the wooden railings on that side and the metal railings on this side. And here's the date stamp for 1951 on the western side. It's kind of weird walking right down the middle of an abandoned road and we're the only people around. It's like a zombie movie or something, The Walking Dead. The rest of civilization has just disappeared. I mentioned with the bridge they expanded the road from 3 lanes to 4 lanes. This may have been considered one of the most scenic highways in Southern California, but it was also one of the busiest. Because of the traffic here, it was quickly realized they needed to expand the highway, but the onset of World War II delayed any construction. Finally, in 1947, they began converting the road into a 4-lane highway. Because of occasional flooding, to try and control Piru Creek, they built a concrete channel for it, but that was eventually mostly destroyed by flooding too. But there is a small section of the concrete channel visible here. A lot of the information that I was able to get on this highway is thanks to the hard work of the Ridge Route Preservation Organization and the Historic Highway 99 Association of California. I'll put links to both organizations in the description, but I think that it's great that there are organizations out there preserving the history of these roads. I'm also thankful that a lot of this great highway is still here for us to enjoy. I can only imagine what an amazing drive this would have been in the 1930s or 40s. Of course, we can't travel the entire length of it anymore, at least not without a submarine, but we'll get to that in just a bit. Check out the canyon walls above us and just how deep the Piru Gorge is here. Look at the mountains in front of us, how the ground is just kind of being pushed up at an angle. We're actually not that far from the San Andreas Fault right now. The most well-known landmark along Highway 99 through this area was Pyramid Rock, which we should be reaching pretty soon, as I could see the end of the road, so to speak, up ahead. What's kind of funny is a lot of the features through here kind of look like they could be called Pyramid Rock, but the actual Pyramid Rock was one of those sites they'd put on postcards and magazine covers. Pyramid Rock should come into view as soon as we turn this corner. They had to make a number of cuts to get through Piru Gorge, but the one up ahead was the largest. It was 206 feet deep and 400 feet long, and required the removal of 230,000 cubic yards of material. This cut also created Pyramid Rock, which is now coming into view. From here, the road used to travel along the right side of Pyramid Rock. Pyramid Rock's shape was created by the blasting for the highway cut. There used to be 2 bridges, one on the north side and one on the south side of Pyramid Rock, but they were removed and replaced by fill when the road was widened in 1951. The fill would later be removed when the road was bypassed. When the road was widened, it required more blasting, and the hill on the section on the right side of the road was blasted at that time. This was once a major landmark on the road that everyone driving between Los Angeles and the north would pass by. But now, it's not even visible at all from the interstate that bypassed the highway. The only people who will ever see it are the few people who hike or bike here, and the California Department of Water Resources employees who work down here. I imagine Pyramid Rock looked far more impressive when the roadway was open. Before, there was a humongous dam right behind it, dwarfing everything. There had long been talk of building a dam in this area, but the highway being built through here slowed down the talks for a while. But when Interstate 5 was finished in 1968, construction of Pyramid Dam began. In 1970, Highway 99 through Piru Gorge north of here, where several bridges still stood, began to disappear. Of course, the road continues on from here, but to see more of its path, we need to head about 2 miles back to our car and drive to Pyramid Lake, which now sits on top of it. We are now at Pyramid Lake, which gets its name from Pyramid Rock. This lake stores water from the California Aqueduct and holds 171,196 acre-feet of water. It has a maximum depth of 355 feet. The dam went into operation in 1970, but the last visible section of what was once Highway 99 was submerged in 1972. Here's a picture showing the road before the lake was here. The route through what is now the lake would go from the dam, around Chumash Island, and then up this finger and continue to what is now a boat ramp. From there, the highway would continue for a couple miles to Smoky Bear Road, and then it would take the same path where Interstate 5 is now. At least for this part of it, the only ones still traveling what was once considered the most scenic highway in Southern California are fish. So that's our look at Old Highway 99 and Pyramid Rock. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and we'll see you next week.